This is California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are in the state's capital, Sacramento, California. We are joined by Craig Watson. He is the director of the California Arts Council. Remind us the mission of the Arts Council.
Well, it's to promote all things having to do with arts and culture in the state of California. Every state has one. Ours was founded in '76 by then Governor Jerry Brown.
Okay, he's back.
He's back. And so our goal really with the agency is to really celebrate, promote, hold up, provide funding for all of the great arts activity in California.
And I think it's fair to say this is a celebratory year for the Arts Council, because over the last few years, the Arts Council faced some funding challenges. Talk to us about what you saw over the last few years, then we'll talk about the good news for this year.
Well, before I joined the council, really 11 years ago, the council received a devastating reduction in funding. 93% of its funding was cut. And so in a state that we take for granted as being this hotbed of creativity and innovation, that was a big blow.
Right.
A big blow to the state, a big blow to the community, arts community in California. And so over this period of time, our funding has hovered around $5 million from various sources. But you're right.
Non-state sources.
Well, 4 of the 5 were from non-state sources, you could say. 1 coming from a match from the National Endowment for the Arts.
Sure.
And approximately $3 million from individual Californians putting on the state arts license plate on their car.
I know them well.
So that's the $5 million. $1 million from the general fund, 1 from the feds, and 3 from the license plate. And that's been the standard, and that's put us dead last in terms of per capita investment for a state arts agency.
Which is interesting because, as you said, we are a state where so many jobs are reliant upon the arts, literally. I mean, you think about Hollywood, you think about Silicon Valley. I mean, both of them artistically driven.
Well, and indeed, we recently funded a creative economy research that showed that 1 in 10 jobs in California are devoted to what we call the creative industries. And that's any industry, including Hollywood and gaming design, furniture design, automotive design, the traditional nonprofit arts. 1 in 10 jobs comes from the creative sector. And we believe that we ignore at our peril growing these artists of the future and these creative people of the future.
But the great news is, for the Arts Council, is funding has been restored.
Well, that's right.
At some level, or at,
well, at a significant first step, and this is a reinvestment, if you will, a recommitment by both this governor and this legislature in the goals and objectives of the Arts Council, and really investing in that future that we not only talk about in terms of creative industries, but an investment in the infrastructure that supports the arts. So $5 million, which will roughly double our budget this coming year. So if our budget's been 5, it will be 10 this next year.
Wow.
And that's a significant jump, certainly on a percentage basis. It still keeps us pretty deep in the pack.
Really?
Compared to other states, yes. By comparison, states like New York and Minnesota spend more than $1 per capita. Think about that.
Right.
If we were per capita at $1, that would be 38 million. So at 10 million, we still got a long ways to go to even come up close to some of the leaders in arts funding.
So it's good news for the arts community. I want to get a real sense of what's going to happen with that money.
Sure.
Because in the final analysis, money is nice to have, but it can be spent in many different ways. And as I understand it, there are some strings in the legislation that dictate how that money can be spent. Is that fair?
Well, the major string, and it's a good one, is that all of it, virtually all of it, with the exception of $100,000, so 4.9 million will go toward direct services, direct grants.
And you'll explain that when we come back. For our viewers on HLN, thanks for joining us. For our other viewers, we'll be right back. So, sir, let's continue our conversation and talk about what the Arts Council plans to do with this new infusion of capital.
Well, we can predict it based on what we did this past year with some one-time money we got through the State Assembly. Speaker Perez provided us with some of the savings out of the Assembly, and so with $2 million this past year, we funded a number of new initiatives. Several were in arts education. We believe strongly that kids in this day and age, unfortunately, are not exposed to the arts like many of us were as we were growing up. So we've invested heavily in arts education. We've also invested in something we call creative placemaking, which is really the place where arts and business kind of come together around economic development ideas that infuse the arts into either neighborhood development or downtown development, or finding ways that cities in particular can use the arts to benefit the whole community. And then we've done some investments in juvenile justice, knowing that kids that might have gotten off the path and were worried about their future, perhaps the arts can bring them back into more self-worth and in a better direction.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I recently spoke with State Senator Ted Lieu, and he has been working with Tim Robbins, the actor Tim Robbins, on bringing arts into prisons, not juvenile justice, but adult prisons. And it is fascinating how programs such as that can be so beneficial for the inmates. I was speaking with someone, a professor from Scripps College, who works at a program called Crossroads, and she works helping the inmates write recipes, and it's amazing how the arts can touch these folks.
Well, indeed, in our early history, the California Arts Council ran an internationally regarded program of arts in corrections, arts in prisons, and just a few months ago, we inked a deal with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, where we're administering this year $1 million for bringing arts heavily back into prisons. And Senator Lieu and Tim Robbins were part of the successful group to help lobby for that. And then next year we'll administer $1.5 million. So separate and apart from the overall budget we talked about, the $10 million, we're going to be administering an extra 2.5 over this year and next year. And we already have chosen 7 amazing organizations to go into California prisons and work with prisoners, because we know from research it reduces recidivism, it cuts down on violence in the prison, it breaks down racial barriers within the prison. It's a good thing.
Why? Why does it work? What is it about the arts? And if I can, focused on kind of the theatrical arts, the being in plays, what is it?
Well, I think from my perspective, and this is a layman's perspective, so this is not necessarily based in research, though the research shows that indeed it does work, but I think it's about people for the first time who maybe have terrible self-worth, not a good image of themselves, and don't know how to communicate with others. Theater has a way of replacing all of that bad history with a new history, a new potential view of yourself and how others see you. And so I think it's not, to me, it's not so surprising. I think that theater in particular is a powerful tool in prisons.
Now, of course, you receive this money from the state, but that does not exclude partnerships with private interests, private industry. Sure. Will you continue to partner with the private sector to bring arts to wherever you see fit?
Well, historically, we've partnered with companies like Target. Target has been historically a sponsor of our Poetry Out Loud program, which reaches high school students all over the state. The Hewlett Foundation, a private philanthropic foundation, has been a partner on programs to help integrate the arts into the new Common Core curriculum, which is a hot topic, obviously, nationwide. So yes, as a state agency, we're uniquely looking for not only other state agencies to be partners with, like we are with CDE. Tom Torlixon's been a great partner in the arts and arts education. I already mentioned corrections. We would love to work at a high level with tourism. So Visit California, you know, there's a lot of reasons people come to California, but certainly the arts is one of them.
Do you have a sense that with the budget turning a corner, that there will be an increased focus on the arts, not just through the Arts Council, but look, you know, I was speaking with Superintendent Torlixon recently, and there's no doubt that K-12 is seeing just a renaissance in funding. I mean, can you work to ensure that some of that funding is also dedicated towards arts education?
Absolutely. The local control funding formula, which is so driven, as the title suggests, at the local level, we know we have passionate parents and passionate school board members who believe in the arts. And so we've done a lot to be a cheerleader, if you will, for encouraging those local plans to have a robust commitment to the arts, because we think it's part of the effectiveness for education.
Congratulations to Craig Watson and the entire California Arts Council. He is the director of that organization. My name is Brad Pomerance, and this is California Edition.